A note to listeners, this interview was recorded before the latest Iran war began. I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. Our two guests today look and sound a lot alike, and that's because they're brothers. Both doctors, both at Vanderbilt. They went to the same schools. They even lived together during their medical training. We're calling them a power couple, though, you know, they've got their own families, not a real couple. Alex and Eiman Jahangir, welcome back to This is Nashville.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, the older brother speaks first. That's very nice. Eiman, would you like to go next? Obviously, you all have a name that people have gotten very creative with, I'm sure. But I have wondered, are people ever surprised that you all are immigrants, Eiman?
I mean, I think my name is a giveaway.
Really?
Which is probably the biggest part. But otherwise, no one would have any idea, I don't think, because being Iranian, we look Mediterranean or European, and I think that people just assume we grew up here, which we did.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had a different experience.
No, I mean, I think sometimes people are surprised we're immigrants. I think my ESL teacher had a really strong Southern drawl, and I swear I think occasionally I pull that out. But we were here at such a young age,
right?
But I think the fact that we are immigrants is not something that either of us hide from. And maybe as kids we may have more so. But I think what's been so neat for me over the past many years, especially as I've gotten more comfortable in who I am, is being able to share that broadly, and especially in a city now that has, I think, 11 or 12% foreign born, which at the time when we grew up here was definitely not 11 or 12%.
Right. Well, and I perhaps I say this because when I was covering COVID, as we all did as reporters, and I was a health reporter, and you were leading, the COVID efforts in town as a volunteer, which we'll get into later. You started talking about, because obviously immigrants were a very key part of that response and how to communicate with different groups. And you talked a little bit about your own experience as an immigrant. And I thought, I hadn't thought about Alex Jahangir being an immigrant. Do you still feel like immigrants in your hometown?
I think Nashville has always been an inclusive city for us. I feel Nashvilleian first and foremost. But to say that I don't recognize that I wasn't born in this country, I mean, of course I feel that I wasn't born in this country occasionally, and I speak our native language at home with my parents. And I mean, so I think the question is I think you can be a true Nashvilleian in Tennessee and be really proud of that. You can be very proud that you were not born in this country, and I think most proud of the fact that you can do it all and highlight that one who comes from different backgrounds can still be a Nashville in Tennessee. I mean, this community has given us so much, and I think that's what's always been so fun, and why I eventually returned is because why not?
Wow. Who paved the way to Nashville? I can't imagine some other connection.
This is such a great story. My uncle, so my dad's sister's husband, was studying abroad in Kansas State. There's two other Iranian guys who were roommates with him. So there probably was 3 Iranians in Kansas State, right, at the late 70s. They were all engineers. Revolution happened. 2 of them had an opportunity to start businesses in Middle Tennessee. And then they asked my uncle, who's a contractor, to come build their businesses for them. And so they came here and he helped them build restaurants. And so when we left in 84, where else are we going to go? Yeah. And so we came here, we lived with them, my cousin and my aunt and uncles, for 6 months. And then eventually, all our family, as they started leaving Iran, we just ended up in Middle Tennessee, in Nashville, and that's how we ended up being here.
How closely do you all follow what's going on in Iran? I mean, Eiman, do you all pay attention to the headlines coming out of Tehran now?
I mean, I think we both pay attention because at the end of the day, we are Nashvilleians, we're Americans, but we're also children of Iran, right? So that is a part of our culture. It's a part of who we are and part of who we're ingrained with. And so we follow it closely because we want everyone, not just in Iran, but in other countries, to have the same freedoms we have here in the United States. And the gift that my parents gave us is that they moved here when we were children so that we could have the beauty and the benefits of living in the United States. And we would love for everyone in Iran to have similar opportunities, right? Just like we'd want anyone in the world to have that. So we follow it closely. I mean, we don't have a lot of dials or any things we can do to change it. But just like anyone interested in world politics, I think Iran is a big part of the world, and particularly the Middle East.
Well, and I'll say, Blake, I have not been back since we left in '84.
This is interesting that it's a place that you really can hardly remember.
That's right. But here's what I remember. I remember scary things like the air raid sirens and planes flying over, because when we left, it was the middle of the Iran-Iraq war. And I remember my mom watching cartoons and my mom grabbing my brother and me and going down to the basement and the planes flying over and bombs being dropped. Wow. You remember those? I remember very vividly, we went through Germany to come here. And I remember getting on the escalator. I was a 6-year-old person, and seeing a woman without a hijab. And I very vividly remember telling my mom, "Oh my God, she's going to get in trouble, Mom." Wow. But then I also remember birthday parties. I remember playing with my friends who were their neighbors. So you remember these things at 6. So, and what's really important for me, I have 3 daughters now. When we both very vividly, very actively we send each other messages and news stories. But I show my kids the stories. I show my kids what, especially as daughters, especially when the few years ago when a 17-year-old girl got killed for just being in the street and showing a little hair. I show them what life could have been potentially for them and why it's so awesome to be here.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, I'm Blake Farmer. This is Nashville. Our guests are the Jahangir brothers, Alex and Eiman, both prominent physicians at Vanderbilt, different specialties, different interests, but very similar paths. So you got a couple years between you, but were you all competitive as kids? I'll get to the younger brother's take, Eiman.
Yeah, I mean, he was always bigger and more coordinated. So if it was competitive from like a physical standpoint, there was no...
Okay, not an issue.
He was always hit himself. I don't understand why he always hit himself. And my hand may be moving in the process, but he'd always be hitting himself.
Yeah, so he was definitely always physically probably stronger than me. I think we were competitive. It's hard to be competitive when someone's 2 years ahead of you in school and in kind of their career. But we always pushed each other on and we egged each other on. And I think, we'd make fun of each other to kind of... get each other motivated.
Well, you got to do that. Yeah. So y'all ended up going to the same college, George Washington in D.C. Eiman, I know you're working on a book, I think about leadership, and found some sort of note recently, maybe that he was like trying to convince you to come or something? Yeah.
So I was, at this point, probably a senior in high school. So he was 2 years ahead. He was a sophomore. And he sent a letter, and I have it. I haven't shown you, but I have this letter from him.
This is news to you, Alex.
This is great background research.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm really having a good time here. And, this was really before email. We had AOL back then. There was not a lot of options to text or email people. And it was a whole reason of like why I should come to GW, that he wasn't trying to pressure me, that I should make my own decisions, but that he knows I would have a good time and it would be a great place to spend together. So I don't know if that's why I went, but...
I don't know if my parents wrote that. I don't remember writing that. But
well, did you feel like you were looking out for whether this is a manufactured letter or not? Yeah, did you feel, Alex, like you were kind of looking out for him, did you feel like big brother mentor vibes? What was the deal?
I mean, yeah, sort of. I mean, I think that is constantly how I feel towards my brother, and I know the feeling in return as we've gotten older. And I tell this to my kids, and I know we share this, like, no one's going to look out for you better than your sibling, period. And so I don't care who your friends are. Being a first-generation immigrant, I think there's certain things that, my kids are going to be so much more advanced in so many things because of the experiences I have or my wife has, and we can guide them. We didn't have that luxury growing up as 16, 17-year-olds looking at colleges. And then... for me to have a little bit more knowledge and be able to share that, and for him to be wise enough to recognize that's what I was doing, I think we've had a lot of upside on both of our lives because of we've taken advantage of our immediate experiences and helped the other get maybe ahead.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that sort of immigrant experience that you kind of really lean on family because they're the people who, kind of know where you've come from, what you, in a way that others probably don't. But I wonder, are like your kids, are you seeing them potentially lose some of that because they're just sort of assimilated and they're just like the rest of their friends and their families aren't nearly so close?
I don't think so with our family. I mean,
Really?
We're very fortunate. Even Thanksgiving, we had a few cousins come into town, like our generation.
I feel
cousins.
like 20.
So yeah, all of a sudden there's like 20 kids in the next generation, and anytime they're together, they're thick as thieves. So I really think that all of the parents have been intentional about the importance of supporting each other, and like, this is your cousin or this is your brother or sister.
It's that intentionality, right? Like, sure, anyone will lose it if you don't talk about it. And so, the values one espouses to the next generation is so important. And for us, family, without a doubt. So it was the two of us. Then there was four other cousins that were around the same age as us. And then we have cousins who are older and younger. And we all grew up like brothers and sisters, right? And so family was everything. Family to this day is everything. As he mentioned, all of our cousins have kids now who are roughly around the same age. They always hang out together. They call each other their cousins. They don't know first generation, second.
Right.
That it's a principle that is our North Star. Like, family first. I tell that to my kids. Sometimes very militantly. Like, this is what we're doing. And so, sure, you could lose it, but we don't allow that to happen.
You say because you got teenagers who are kind of trying to make their own decisions and plans, and you're like, no, family.
More.
And we expect the teenagers to veer off course, and we probably did, right, growing up. But then, when you get to college and afterwards, I'm closer to some of my cousins now than I was when I was growing up, and they might be 10 years older than me.
So last thing on this competitive piece. So you all both are at George Washington, both know you're going to get into medicine. They have some sort of early entry program into the med school. Alex goes for it, doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Doesn't get it.
Discourages his brother from doing the same thing. What's that story?
I mean, if I didn't get it, how was he going to get it?
It's a valid point. I mean, he looked better on paper for sure.
And he got it. And I think that might have been one of the first times when, in all sincerity, I was like, man, he's got something. He's got the it factor that objectively they viewed him as a better applicant than me. And I will say, I mean, if you look at how we grew up, I mean, he is definitely, I'm a biology major who went straight to med school. Iman's a religion major. Who did go straight to med school, but he's a lot more philosophical. He's a lot more adventurous. He does different things. He's just, yeah. So he didn't get it, but or I got it, or excuse me, I didn't get it.
I see.
He got it, and I think that really was the first of many things subsequently that have shown that maybe he's a little better in certain parts.
Wow. Well, but you all ended up together in Memphis at the UT Med School. I guess, Alex, you were in residency at that time, maybe, or you were in med school and residency at the same time.
That's right.
In Memphis, and lived together. Like, was that because you just needed a roommate, and I've lived with this guy before, or was it something that's like wanted?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was. I don't know if it was wanted or expected, but it was known that that's what was going to happen, and we hadn't lived together in college, obviously, because I was a freshman living in the freshman dorm. He was doing upperclassmen stuff. But it was great because for a number of reasons. One, I got to kind of see what the rest of med school was like and live it through him, including surgical internship, which did not look like fun at all. It's probably why I'm a cardiologist to a certain extent. And also, he would teach me stuff because there's a lot to learn in medicine, not just like knowledge, but practical skills, procedural skills. And he was doing it, and he'd been doing it. So I could go up to him and say, hey, what's going on here? And then you need someone that you can kind of let steam off with, meaning if you have a roommate, you probably don't want to get too confrontational with them, but like brothers and siblings can always, have their moments and still be brothers and siblings. And I suspect I don't remember any moments, but I'm suspecting there were times we were both stressed out and we were just like, could you just leave me alone?
Well, Alex, was the plan always to come back here together, make a life in Nashville?
Never. No,
Never.
I don't think that was at all the plan. I think when we left high school, at least for me, and I think for you as well, the plan was to go elsewhere, to go somewhere that's, and especially when we went to college in D.C., the experience of Washington, D.C., when you grew up in Nashville in the 80s and 90s was just worlds different. And so for me, it was very much to stay in the Northeast and further. And I actually had an opportunity to go to medical school in New York. And the only reason I came back to Memphis was to, because it was just financially more beneficial. And but for me, it was really about a year or two before I moved back here that I saw what the city was becoming, and then also realizing that, I can maybe go back to this city and get involved in the community and maybe demonstrate, like, this community gave me so much that it's good to give back to the community that gave you so much. And that's what brought me back. But it never was the plan to come back, much less together.
Well, we need to take a quick break. We'll be back with the Jahangir brothers, talk about Alex's leadership during COVID, Eiman's trip to space. Stay with us. This is Nashville. Another quick note to listeners, this interview was recorded before the latest Iran war began. I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. When the first case of COVID was discovered in Nashville, Dr. Alex Jahangir was probably in surgery, putting somebody back together after a car wreck or a gunshot wound as an orthopedic surgeon at Vanderbilt. He just so happened, at the time, to be the chair of the Metro Board of Public Health. And now the board had just become the most closely watched governmental body in the city. Today, we have Alex Jahangir and from Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt cardiologist Eiman Jahangir, his brother, both in the studio. So, Alex, I'm not going to start with you. Eiman, what were you thinking as your brother is sort of becoming the face of the city's COVID response?
I mean, just like for everyone else, I remember when this started.
Yeah.
And as a physician, we were trying to figure out what that meant. It wasn't going to be locked down at home. It was going to be, how do we ramp up to take care of what we assumed was going to be a large sick population? And as I'm doing this and I'm learning how to, intubate people and all of these things I'd learned a long time ago and luckily didn't have to use again, he comes to me and says, they want me to lead this task force. And I remember just looking at him and I'm like, are you kidding me? Because
are you qualified?
Fair question. Fair question.
I knew he was qualified from like a leadership perspective, but I was also thinking, like, this is going to be a big deal. This is going to be a big, and we didn't know it was going to be as long as it lasted. I don't think. Early on, everyone predicted this would kind of come and go, but I knew the city was going to be in good hands because he's thoughtful, he's smart, and he thinks of things logically, which is good. That's what you want in that role. But I could believe it, but I couldn't believe it because I was like, this is a good guy for this, but woo.
Well, Alex, I kind of thought you got like pulled into it. But then in reading your book, sitting over here, Hotspot, I read that you essentially you got pulled into some meetings, but then on your own, like drew up a response plan. And Mayor Cooper's at the time was like, okay, yeah, you be the COVID chief. Like you were this volunteer. What were you doing sort of drawing out the response plan for the city?
Well, I think the plan wasn't ever made for me to operationalize.
Yeah.
If you remember, and so great to actually, it's been a while since we see each other. I remember seeing you for the first time at one of those first press conferences. You're sitting to the left side. And this plan was essentially to help our new director.
I forgot that Michael Caldwell was very new at the time.
Like he started the Monday, our first press conference was Sunday before.
That's right.
And so it wasn't a plan for me. I want to be very clear. It was like, look, here's a new person who's coming to our community who was not from Nashville. And this was that was the only intention.
He didn't even know his way around
that's right.
Who were the power players and who would be good to be helpful.
And so I think the reality of getting pulled into it is actually a valid statement because I was never intended to be in anywhere near it, much less in the forefront of it.
Well, in your book, it's basically kind of these op notes, these almost like you would make after a surgery, just a couple sentences about what happened. And it's kind of like each day. So, it's actually can be pretty quick reading if you just read those little notes. But you write early on about driving to the emergency command center for a press conference and just finding yourself sobbing in the car. Like, what was going on that day?
Yeah. I think about that. That's the one part that I think about a lot. I was driving up 12 South. Because to get to Vanderbilt from my house, I always drive up 12 South and I always drive down 12 South. Even today, I just love the vibe of 12 South. And
a lot of pedestrians over there now, but
Yeah, but even 5 years ago, or however long it's been, 6 years ago also. And I remember coming up, and this was the day that I knew we were about to really announce even more restrictive, like safer at home orders. Oh. And it was quiet, and it was dead. And I look around, I'm like, oh my God, like what is going on? And I honestly am not a very emotional person as far as, definitely not like a tearful person. And it just hit me. I remember pulling over and yeah, I remember that very vividly. And it's not lost upon me even to this day when I drive up and down 12 South, how awesome it is now and how scary and sad it was then. Even as early as this morning when I drove my kids to school.
Wow. Eiman, were you, you're a cardiologist, so I assume you're mostly kind of in clinic and, helping patients with their hypertension and stuff, right? What were you doing during COVID?
So we round in the hospital too, so it's both
Got it.
inpatient and outpatient work. But honestly, all the doctors at the beginning were mobilizing to how do we take care of these people with COVID, right? For people with really bad respiratory disease, typically it's the pulmonologist and the medical ICU doctors caring for them, but we didn't know what was going to come. We remember hearing about what was happening in Italy and in China, and these healthcare systems were being overwhelmed. So to Vanderbilt's credit, they said, okay, we need to start ramping everyone up to understand how to care for these patients with guidance in case that happens here. We got very fortunate. That wasn't the scenario we found ourselves in. But so we were, I was doing my day-to-day job, but also trying to get ready in case it got much worse.
Well, you said it in passing just now, but that, you were, learning to intubate patients again. Like really? Like you sort of went back to those skills because you might need them?
Yeah, so luckily Vanderbilt has an excellent simulation laboratory. So this is built for the students, the house staff, fellows, residents, anyone training in procedures. So you can do it on basically a very lifelike dummy, right? So you can get that skill set. And so they had us going through there and practicing. And luckily none of us had to ever use those skills, but they were very intentional about teaching everyone. So even the hospital was ramping up as Alex was ramping up or ramping down the city, I guess, ramping up the city, ramping down the businesses. The hospitals were ramping up their staff in case this doomsday scenario presented itself.
Well, Alex, you also write about how you were kind of like the city's hero on some days, but a villain on others, and even worried a little bit about your own safety. I don't know, that may be a little strong, but something like that. Like then one day, a stranger sneaks into the command center and hands you a package. And this was like concerning. What was it? What was it?
It's not an overstatement what you said. There was times when I would be approached in a very aggressive way. That scenario, this person walked in. I still very vividly remember him. Has a very pleasant smile and it hands me a package, and very quickly told me he was a messenger. And when I asked him from whom, he said the Lord. And long story short, is he had a dream the night before about that we weren't sharing the right information really around ivermectin and other treatments that haven't been shown to be appropriate. Had written an entire manifesto that was made to me and the mayor and a few others, and had all this literature. And what felt like a lifetime probably was just a few-minute conversation. I guess I made him happy that he had the conversation. He started walking out, and then obviously he was, people questioned him and so forth. But it was scary. It was a scary time. And I think this is the thing, Blake, that, we're here with my brothers. I think it's the first time we've done an interview together. One more thing that he did and his family did was, this was the only time in my life when really my priority typically is family, patients, and everything else. In this scenario, family didn't come first. My priority was the responsibility I had to the city and to the people of greater Nashville. And so what was really neat at the time, and then subsequently as I've thought about it, is how much Eiman and his wife and his kid really brought in my children, because they couldn't really be with my parents because we were worried about the elderly parents. And they really made a pod, and the family first model really came to fruition. My kids to this day still talk about days when they had mud day because it just rained a lot and there was a lot of mud in his backyard and they played. And I find these pictures, the neat thing about phones is you could scroll old pictures.
Iman's still cleaning up.
He still needs grass.
I will say to me, the safety part really came to a head for him when he was at a local restaurant meeting up with someone and the owner came and chased him out.
Wow.
And that blew my mind. He called me in the car, right? He'd just been chased out of this restaurant, expletives coming at him, feeling threatened physically and kind of verbally. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because he wasn't doing something that should have been charged. I know it was very politically charged, and we come back to this, and the idea of masking and vaccinations for some reason becoming politically charged. But people were very upset. They either loved him to this day. When I'm publishing this book, one of the people I'm working with sent me an email when she saw my name thinking I was Alex, and she's like, oh, you were like really guided me through that tough period. I'm like, I'm sorry, you have the wrong Jahangir brother. But that was very real. And then as far as the family comes, honestly, I think a lot of us missed some of that time in COVID where we didn't have everything else to do. So for his girls who are now teenagers and busy with sports and things like that, we don't get to see them as often as we used to. One, because they're teenagers, and two, because back then no one had anything to do. So we were spending so much time together, and it was truly, I mean, it was a fortunate outcome of COVID, which was an otherwise pretty terrible thing for people.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville. I'm your host, Blake Farmer. We're in the studio with the Jahangir brothers, Alex and Eiman. I want to sort of take a hard pivot here. Eiman, where did you get the bug to go to space?
Honestly, probably in Iran, when we were, just like Alex mentioned earlier, we were used to seeing missiles come overhead and the missile sirens go off and running to the basement. That was terrifying, especially for like a 3-year-old kid. But then we moved to the U.S., right here in Nashville, and in our back door is Huntsville. Oh. And so going down to the Space and Rocket Center as kids, our parents would take us down there. I mean, it was incredible, right? So all of a sudden you realize, wow, humans can go to space. And that was the shuttle era. And the shuttle era was so cool.
Yeah. Well, but it's the kind of thing, kind of like with dinosaurs or something, where it's like, oh, kids are fascinated, and then they get other interests. It didn't leave you.
It never left. But it wasn't practical. So becoming a doctor, I guess, was much more practical because I could see a route forward, a road forward. You could do X, Y, Z.
Well, how seriously did you pursue like becoming an astronaut with NASA?
So after I became a doctor in 2005, then I very aggressively started pursuing becoming an astronaut with NASA.
I have to interrupt here. So by that, literally, he went to usajobs.gov. And you were intern.
That's the way you apply.
And he calls me. It was a weekend. He's like, "Hey, man, usajobs.gov has an opening for astronaut right now, and I qualify because I'm a physician." And being the good, supportive older brother, I'm like, "What the heck is wrong with you? Like, why would you want to waste your time applying right now?"
It was like college all over again.
And he applied, and I have to say this story because it's older brother prerogative, but like literally, he applied, and then. As I've learned later, like 6,000 or 7,000 people that year applied. And then he got a secondary application, and we thought just like med school and college, everyone gets secondary. Apparently only about a few hundred get secondaries. So he applied again through the secondary, and then he got an interview. And I'm like, well, you might as well go to Houston. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Goes to Houston for 3 or 4 days. And then he gets a second interview. And I joked that when he even when he got the second interview, I was like, man, this is like space camp. You're not going to get it, but you might as well go enjoy it. But here, Blake, you'll appreciate this part of the story.
It was awesome.
This is being the good Iranian parents. Being a doctor is what you should always be.
Right. Your father was a doctor.
Yes.
And he had my also recommendation. We had not told our parents that he had applied to be.
Really?
Because we knew right away what the reaction would be. And only after he made it to the second interview, when the numbers went from thousands, like 6,000, 7,000 to 50.
Yeah, it was like 47 people.
To pick a handful. And at that time, he was the youngest. So I was like, you're probably going to get this. We're like, you probably should tell mom and dad because like it'd be really bad if they learned through the news that you're an astronaut. And the reaction was exactly as you'd imagine. They were like, what is wrong with you? You're a doctor.
You're back in Nashville. You're doing your fellowship. What are you thinking? You're married or you're going to be married soon?
Yeah. So I will say that even the older brother was like, what the heck is wrong with you? What are you doing? Anyway, I'm sorry to take from this story.
Yeah. I mean,
what was it that kept you going to, because all the training to be a physician, I'm sure it's helpful, but it's almost like throwing that away or something,
I mean,
right?
it's definitely helpful, and you sound like my father, Blake. No. I will say, so I actually enjoy doing procedures, and in my third year of fellowship, I was going to pursue another year of doing interventional cardiology, which is where you go in and you open up arteries and things like that. But I also realized that I wanted to become an astronaut. Yeah. And that if I ever was selected by NASA, which was the only kind of way back then, that maybe being a proceduralist was not a good idea. Because if you stop doing something, like if Alex stops doing surgery for 3 years, he's not going to be as good at it.
Yep.
If I stop treating hypertension or like congestive heart failure with medicines for 3 years, I can still come back and kind of get back on that bike, right? It's less skill and more mental.
See.
So I actually pulled out of my fellowship. I said, look, I know I was supposed to do this next year, but I don't think it's the right decision for me. So even to that extent, this dream was very real, that I was making decisions in cardiology based on the fact that I wanted to be an astronaut.
Wow. Well, we haven't made it quite to space yet, but I think we need to take our last break, and when we come back, we'll take a trip into the great unknown. We'll be back with the Jahangir brothers, Alex and Eiman, Vanderbilt doctors, a community leader, an astronaut, and we'll wrap up the hour talking a little bit about family closeness. You're listening to This Is Nashville. Stay with us. One more reminder to listeners, this interview was recorded before the latest Iran war began. I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. When we left off, we were getting excited about Eiman Jahangir becoming an astronaut, or at least headed that direction. We're going to take a little trip to space. We're going to wrap up talking about being close, even as adults, as siblings. Thank you for joining us this hour. So take us back here, Eiman. You're hoping that you're going to become an astronaut. You've just trained to become a cardiologist. Did it happen?
Not with NASA, sadly.
Well, really. So what? You just make it to the end of the road, and they say, yeah, maybe next time.
That's exactly what they do. They give you a phone call, and you're waiting. The call is going to come out sometime in that week, and they call you and they say, sorry, but we loved you, but apply again. But they don't give you any sort of feedback. Yeah. So me, being the stubborn man I am, applied again. Made it to the finals in 2013. Again, this time I'm like, they're definitely going to pick me up. Didn't get picked.
Wow.
Apply again in 2019, I think it was 2021. I've applied 5 times.
21? We're talking 5 years ago.
Yeah. I even applied in 20. They just had a selection. I applied again.
Wow. What are the age restrictions?
Well, yeah. The
I'm
oldest
not calling
person,
you an old man.
No, I mean, I
okay.
am. I think the oldest person they picked up was this last class, I think was 46, and that's pushing it.
Okay.
Because they want to hire you, train you. It takes 2 years to become an astronaut. Then you got to get assigned a mission. Then it's 3 years of training. So they want to have you for 10 to 20 years if they can.
Yeah.
So
well, what is it that keeps you, 15 years later, still going for it?
And I might apply again. I don't know. Why not? Might as well. I think it's good as humans to push yourself. Not necessarily to go to space, but it's good to have something out there that you want to achieve that's hard and hopefully achievable. I mean, most people think becoming an astronaut maybe is not achievable. And I think in 2005, I would have said it wasn't achievable, but I was going to do it. But the second I got close, then I said, okay, this really is something I could do. And it's just that pursuit of getting better and growing and trying to do something that's hard. That is what drives me. I mean, it drives me in everything, right? Like, by all accounts, I should be very content being a cardiologist in the community, caring for my patients, and I am. But beyond that, I keep pushing, and I want to do more.
And I think Blake, what he doesn't say about himself is the perseverance to get better, right? So between 1 and 2, the applications, he moved to Argentina, learned a foreign language, became scuba certified, skydived, did low oxygen training, got a master's in public health,
all on your own dime,
all
right?
on his own dime.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, if there's a goal you want and you figure out how to get it, it's not, nobody owes you anything.
Yeah.
And I think that is the drive that both of us have. And he, in those subsequent years, has done all of that. All of those things also help, him be a better person and probably a better cardiologist, but it was towards that goal. So anyone listening thinking just keep applying, that in alone isn't going to do it. Like, you have to do something to get it.
Well, and yet all those things, that sort of being focused on this goal, takes away from this, and it was Alex, of course, you talking about this, but like family being number one, it's like those things kind of pull you away from that. Like, how's your wife felt about you doing all this, really?
I've been very fortunate because she's always been supportive. Yeah. I always had a week or two where I could go focus on something space-related. But to that effect, earlier this past year, I was working for Blue Origin. So this is kind of a dream, right? I was training astronauts to go to space. This was after my space flight. I was helping researchers get their payloads to space. But with that job, I was gone 10 to 12 days a month.
I see.
In a row.
Oh, like half the month?
Half the month, every month. So I realized pretty quickly after 6 months that wasn't tenable. That for my children, I have a 3.5-year-old, I have a soon-to-be 11-year-old, this isn't what I wanted. While the job was great and I was doing something very cool, that it wasn't prioritizing the right things. That right now in this chapter of my life, being here for the kids was most important.
Well, you did end up going to space with Blue Origin. Where'd you find the multi-million dollars to get a seat on that thing?
It wasn't by playing the lottery. I'll tell you that much. Though it kind of was, because there was a group called Moondow, and once again, the world is crazy. If you'd asked me in 2005 how I'd get to space, one, Blue Origin didn't exist as a commercial entity that was flying humans to space, so that commercial space flight didn't exist. Two, there was nothing like NFTs or DAOs, and what Moondow was a group of people that used the blockchain, so cryptocurrency and things like that, raised money on the internet to crowdfund sending someone to space.
Well, if you said that sentence 10 years ago, people like, no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. And people still may be listening, like, no idea what you're talking about. But all those things are newfangled things.
In the last 5 years, really.
Yeah.
During COVID. All of this stuff boomed during COVID. So while he was doing his leading the city, I was on the internet trying to find a way to space.
Alex, how about you on this sort of like outside pursuits? I mean, Eiman's point about, by all accounts, you should just sort of be satisfied with your life. I'm asking, just so you know, I'm asking this as a guy who is just content to be where he is. Always interested in people who are very driven to do something else, especially when it's not just obviously, going to make you more money or make you more famous or make you whatever. Like, what keeps you signing up for new things, deciding to, write a book, take that thing, be on this board? Why do you say yes?
How lucky am I to be able to be given all these opportunities, right? I think I want to clarify one thing, like wanting to always do more and being content, in my opinion, are not exclusive. I'm really happy in every day. I love my day job. I love the people I interact with. And I think there's some people that are always not happy because they want to get the next thing, right? So I think there's a fine line there. So my personal reason for wanting to do these things is, how neat is it as some guy who moved here at age 6, didn't speak the language, this community gave me so much, and now I'm sitting here and I have an opportunity I'm on a show for an hour on a station that I knew growing up, right? With amazing reporters and hosts. I've had an opportunity to work with mayors and work with political leaders to make our city better. Opportunity at Vanderbilt to work with great leaders to expand the great care we do. It's pretty wild. I don't know. For me personally, it's. I think if I just start thinking about how do I make myself happy in isolation, I don't think I'm paying the community back like what was given to me. So that's my personal drive. But again, I think it's really important to know I'm very content with status quo, and I'm happy, because I think some people perceive all this other stuff as seeking happiness.
Yeah,
that's not the reason.
It's a good point. Yeah.
It's really awesome to be able to do it all. And if I don't do any of it ever again, man, I'm so lucky every day.
Huh. What do you mean, Eiman?
I think, content and happiness are two kind of separate entities. I think you can be happy with where you're at. You know, we both have a lot of gratitude because we've come to this country. We're living the American dream. This is it, right? Like immigrants, you get a good education, you have a good profession where you're helping people every day, making a difference, and you can give back to your community. I mean, to me, that's the American dream. Raise your family. We're secure, we're safe, we're healthy. These are not things that everyone has, particularly both in this country and externally. But beyond that, it's like, so you can be happy, you can enjoy your day job, and you can still strive for more. It doesn't have to, the striving doesn't have to be driven by discontent, you know? You don't, and I think that's a good place to be if you can get there.
We've got just a few minutes left. If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville. I'm your host, Blake Farmer. We're in the studio with the Jahangir brothers, Alex and Eiman. You know, for some of us as adults, we're lucky if we catch our sibling, you know, on the phone every few weeks. Could even be a few months if you're not careful. You could even live in the same town, somehow not find the time to be with your own flesh and blood. But, you know, the Jahangir brothers, well, this isn't the only time you've seen each other this week, I'm guessing.
No.
We were together last night. I call him, one of us calls every day.
Maybe a couple of times a day.
And sometimes I wonder if the other guy's like, why is he calling? Because it'll be like, hey. And then it's silence.
What's even cooler is we work one story from each other. All the buildings of Vanderbilt, we happen to literally be in the same building, one story above each other. So we actually get to see each other at work occasionally.
When I found out I got this ticket to go to space, I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm in clinic. I ran downstairs. I'm like, guess what? And so it was nice because we could enjoy it in person.
Wow.
As opposed to just a text.
You know, I think anybody with a sibling is like, man, that really would be cool. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, some people have very, very tough relationships with a sibling, but it doesn't happen. I feel like, frankly, in our American culture, like that family bond, the sibling bond, it's not a real priority for a lot of folks. Eiman, do you find that people even in your all's orbit are like, wow, this is cool, but a little different from how most people are, you know?
I mean, it comes back down to what Alex was saying earlier, intentionality.
Yeah.
So we don't always agree on everything. We don't always get along because that's, you know, we're two different people. And even though we have very similar goals, we perceive the world differently at times. But beyond that, we also know that we have each other's back. And we know that our relationship allows us both to do better, both for ourselves, for our family, and for our community. So why wouldn't we want to foster that and grow that? You know, the saddest thing that to me, and I've thought about this quite a bit in the last year, is my father has many siblings, but he had two brothers. And both brothers are now gone. They've passed away. And I think about my dad because I think, wow, like he can never talk to his brothers again. And he was very close to them. And to me, that thought comes once in a while. And I think about how weird it would be if Alex wasn't here and if I couldn't just pick up the phone and call him. Yeah.
With nothing to say.
With nothing to say. Just that heavy breathing.
Somebody's going to keep him honest. I mean, I've always got something to say.
Well, how much of this closeness carries over from Iranian culture? Or maybe just being immigrants at all?
I mean, I think a lot of it. I mean, I think it's a shared experience. Mm-hmm. We know where we came from, each other, and the challenges we've had. So I think the Persian culture is very close, very dynamic, very. I don't think people fully appreciate that. That's what Iranian culture really is. It's all about family. It's about sharing food, experiences, parties. And again, that's where we were raised. I know some people who are of Iranian background who don't do that. Mm-hmm. But every Sunday we go to my parents' house and have lunch. Every opportunity we get for cousins and aunts and uncles to get together, we do. We have group texts with all our cousins around the world now. So it's very common. And it's, yeah.
Well, it's not the first time you all have worked together. You were showing me a picture of you all both back in the day working at what is now known as the Adventure Science Center. What were y'all doing, kind of, having the same sort of summer job there at what was then the Cumberland Science Museum? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, we were explainers is what they were called back then. I think they have a different name for them now.
Yeah, think about animal shows, robot shows, dry ice
nitrogen.
presentations.
You did them?
Oh,
did
yeah.
them. Gave them tours.
So the science began
Oh, yeah.
at the center.
And managing
on the hill.
the gift shop and the front desk, like customer service experience. Like that job put it all out there. It was awesome.
Public speaking, customer service, learning how to do scripts. So for any young people out there, maybe look at the Adventure Science Center if you're interested in science, because I think they have a similar program now.
Yeah. Well, and Alex, you were on the board for a while, right?
Yeah, I was the board chair during the pandemic.
Wow.
I stepped down as board chair, a job I thought would be my pinnacle of my community service.
You thought you couldn't be the board chair of the Adventure Science Center and making decisions about COVID, conflict of interest.
No, but when I was board chair, one really hard decision is I think we laid off 47 people. We shut down a week before the rest of the city because we let science drive the decision, and 47 people were let go during the pandemic, and that I experienced that, and so I never forgot that. And so anyway,
wrapping up here, Eiman. You all grew up in Nashville, and obviously had a different view of what the city was, having come from Iran. I wonder, how has it changed for someone who kind of grew up with one foot in one culture and one foot here? Like, what have you observed has changed over, your lifetime?
I mean, I think the coolest part of Nashville is how many different groups of people are here. When I grew up, there wasn't a large Coptic Egyptian group. They started in the mid to late 90s, coming with the opening of the River Delta area of Opryland Hotel. That was a big driver for that community to join us. There's a large Kurdish population, which didn't exist when we grew up here at a young age. And then beyond that, I mean, Nashville has grown, back in the 90s, this was a very hippie town. You'd go down to Bongo Java, and there'd be like hippie type people, and there'd be board games, and there'd be people playing live music. And just the whole culture of the city has changed with growth, some to the better and some not as expected. And I don't think any of us could have predicted that this is what the city was going to be, but it's a great place to live with. We have an art museum now. We have a symphony hall. We have sports teams, if that's what you're into. So the amount of things that this relatively medium-sized city holds is pretty amazing.
And Alex, for you, having this view of the city, kind of the inner workings of the city, and kind of what the city takes, from people complaining or patting you on the back. I wonder, leading the city through COVID, like what made you proudest of your hometown?
The people of the city. What is so amazing is, every time we have a big catastrophe, everyone has this Nashville Strong motto that people say. The people of the city and the true willingness to give to their fellow neighbor is something that we have in this city, we've had in this city, and I hope and I don't think we'll lose. And that is, I co-chaired Imagine Nashville initiative we had about a year ago, and the biggest thing about the city that came out is a sense of belonging. Everyone in this, a really high percentage of Nashvillians had a sense of belonging to something in the city. You may not be proud to be a Nashvillian, but you may be proud of your community center or your church or your bowling league. That's because people come together and support each other and help each other through hard times. And that I saw both during the pandemic. I've seen during moments of trauma when I take care of patients. I've seen it in every other endeavor. I'm so proud of Nashvillians, and I don't think we'll ever lose that, because that is really what differentiates us from every other community.
Well, Alex and Eiman Jahangir, thank you so much for being our first Power Couple interview. Really appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
You don't want to get the last word, Alex. Older brother prerogative.
You know what? Once in a while, you got to let them have it. And here I go. I'm taking it.
All right, here we go. Well, thank you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. We air these profile interviews most Mondays. You can listen to thisisnashville.org or in our podcast feed. Today's episode produced by Mary Mancini. Tasha A.F. Limley is our managing editor, and our board operators, Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind that theme music are LaRange and Namir Blade. The conversation doesn't end here. You can comment, tell us what you want to hear on the show by leaving us a message at 615-751-2500. You can also find us on Instagram. This is Nashville. I'm Blake Farmer. Go in peace.